On today's episode of the McCann Dogs Podcast,
if the dog's feeling a bit of stress, it may do things that you didn't expect them to do.
I wasn't necessarily expecting to see a lot of stress from Ned.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the house was actually empty, he would not let me out of his sight.
and now, Instructor Shannon.
Welcome back to the McCann Dogs Podcast. I am Instructor Shannon, and I'm joined in the studio today by Instructor Swanny. Hi,
Hello,
Swanny.
everyone. Hi.
And we also have a special guest who's joining us again for this episode, and that is Instructor Honda. Instructor Honda is deaf and sleeping, so
Yes.
I don't think that he has much to offer this podcast. But if you're curious to hear Instructor Honda's advice, he did introduce himself on the last podcast. So you can go and listen to the Halloween Dangers podcast, and you will meet Honda and hear some of his wonderful advice. He's just joining us as our little couch potato dog today.
Right. Yes, he's 14, so
Yes.
he's showing off his new haircut.
Yeah, he looks spiffy.
Yes, and he decided, to come in today and do some work.
Yeah,
He's-
it's about time.
it's about time.
I was going to tell him he's been slacking.
Yeah, he hasn't had a lot of input lately. And
Too much slack. And we've been working hard, very hard, because Swanny and I actually both just moved.
we have.
Recently.
Yes.
To different locations. You know, we're not living together, but I wouldn't mind
We live in the McCann commune.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get each other. I wouldn't mind living with
Right,
Instructor
yes, that would
Swanny.
be fun. It would be too much fun. We'd have too much fun. Nothing would get done.
Yeah.
Who'd pay the bills?
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. We would be unproductive because
Yes.
we would just do this witty banter thing all day
All
long.
day long. All day long.
every
And
day.
antics. We often have antics too.
They're good antics, though.
Right, yes.
But they're funny and entertaining.
Yes, they are.
Well, we thought we would talk about some of the things that we experienced with our dogs with the move. And Instructor Swanny is by far more experienced with this than I am. You have moved how many times and how long?
In the last 3 years, I have 3.5 years. I've moved 5 times.
That is a lot of times.
And I've lived in 3 different provinces also in the last 5
That's
years.
a lot of provinces.
So I've done a lot of heavy moving
Yes, you
to
have.
different provinces in Canada.
You have.
Yes.
I've moved once within Ontario, about an hour difference in drive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the first time I've moved since the last time I moved, which was 10 years ago. So I don't have nearly the experience in moving that you do. But there was a few things that I noticed, and we've chatted a little bit
Right,
about our
yeah.
experiences, and I thought, hey, actually, I think it was your idea.
Right, yeah. Moving with dogs because that's been our,
That's the theme of our life lately.
Right,
so.
yes.
How are
yes.
you? How's your new place?
I'm settling in.
Good.
I've moved from suburbia to the thick of the city. So I am right in the thick of Hamilton.
Busy.
Yeah, about 500,000 people live in Hamilton.
Yeah.
So it's quite a busy city, and I'm far more congested in a smaller area. A lot different for Honda to experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how has his transition been? Has he gotten used to things now?
Yes. Now he transitioned very easily.
Okay.
I think he's a very seasoned mover now.
Yeah,
having
he
moved,
would be.
Having moved, that's 5 times in the last 3.5 years. So he seems to get it now, and he's built that confidence that even though things are changing, things are going to stay the same.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you know what? What better way to find that out than right from the dog's mouth? But he's sleeping.
Any
so.
words of wisdom there, Honda? Honda's deaf, so we can't. Yeah, he's very deaf. I can poke him.
Poke, poke.
There he is. Do you have anything to say, Honda? Anything to say
Words
to us?
of wisdom?
Anything? We got a tiny word there. Yeah, you do have some advice. What do you think of all the moving? Do you want to move again? Well, we'll see. We'll see.
That sounded like no. It sounded like a real cry for no.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I see. He's saying she's right.
You're right.
No
Okay.
more moving.
Well, we'll try to stay put for a little bit.
I'm too little to haul the moving truck, he says. I don't want to do it anymore.
I do make him pack his own suitcase, too.
Yeah, as well you should. Right. Who else is going to, he needs to be responsible for himself.
Yeah.
Thank you for those words of advice, Honda. I think that was very, very special.
You're a smart boy.
You are a very smart boy. All right. So one of the first things that I have on my notes here is dogs are nosy. They're nosy.
They are
just
nosy
like
things.
Honda there, right there, was very nosy about what we were talking about and wanted in on the conversation.
Right.
Now, seriously, though, dogs are nosy. They're scavengers by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So as I noticed that as I was pulling my house apart and getting ready to move, and, you know, I'd have all these boxes and each one was sort of half full with stuff that I was trying to organize into little segments of what I wanted. And of course, Ned was right in there for everything. So I expected that he would be. I knew that he would be. So I was going into this, I was very cautious with what I was putting in the boxes early, the ones that, you know, I didn't plan to necessarily close up and tape up and put away. But I made sure that anything that I thought, you know what, he might be interested in that
get into
thing,
that, yes.
I closed up the box temporarily. So there was no chance that he would grab something and try eating it, etc. I mean, most of the time he's with me, but of course there's downtime where he might wander around and show interest in something. Dogs being scavengers, never underestimate what might intrigue them, and especially when things change in the environment.
Right. And if the dog's feeling a bit of stress, it may do things that you didn't expect them to do.
Yeah. Let's talk about that stress actually for a moment, because I wasn't necessarily expecting to see a lot of stress from Ned. He's a pretty steady Eddie guy.
Right, he is, yes.
And well exposed to everything, and usually, you know, takes everything with a grain of salt and lets everything roll off his shoulders. But when by the time the house was actually empty, he would not let me out of his sight. And I get really emotional really easily, and I have triggers and memories and things that will catch my attention, and I'll get dwelling on them. And one of them was, anytime I've seen stories or seen movies or seen, you know, whatever, where a dog gets left behind from, you know, usually it's those animal control shows that sometimes I can watch and sometimes I can't because they're just so heartbreaking. But the ones where you see the dogs get left behind by their families and they're found by the animal control officers alone in a house that may or may not have food spilled all over the floor for them to feed themselves until they're found. It just broke my heart as he was following me around. And as he was clearly so anxious about what was happening and what was going on, I started crying. And I'm sure it was all the emotion of leaving my house as well. I've lived there for 10 years and I love the home.
Right. You had a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of emotions moving. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love my new home. I've moved from a lot in town, a nice little home on a lot in town to 12 acres. So Ned and I now have lots of space to spread out and train and, you know, maintain and do all sorts of wonderful things. So it's a magical move, and I've been wanting this for a long, long time, decades. So it is wonderful. There's no real hardship for me in it, but I was detaching from a house that I felt safe and loved and wonderful in for 10 years. So it was emotional.
It is. Moving is emotional. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. But having said that, I'm pretty sure I probably would have triggered and started crying on that thought of the dogs being left behind anyways, because he was so intensely like stuck to me. And what's going on, Mom? What's happening here?
Right.
Anyway, the day that the movers came, hi Honda, the day that the movers came, I made sure that he was away in his crate. What did you do with Honda?
Same thing. Yeah. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And why did you do that?
Well, there's a lot going on, and the movers are Honda being a monkey over there.
Are you a monkey?
Yes, he is.
You're a cute monkey.
Once dogs hit their older ages, I often say they're in the no rules club. So yes, if Honda was a young dog, I would probably be on top of him and saying, no, this, you're here.
You have to come and lie
down. But he's 14, so he gets a lot more freedoms than I would a younger, untrained dog.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I can totally appreciate that. I just said goodbye very sadly to my 15-year-old toller, Reggie, a couple of months ago. And I can totally appreciate that, because at that age, at 15, it was like every day's a gift.
Right.
And you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So you just sort of roll with the punches at that point.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Yes. So it was wonderful to spend 15 years with that dog. So I'm finally able to talk about it without bursting into tears. So now I'll say that out loud to our podcast audience. Yes. Lots of you will know Reggie, and he was a joy to know and love, and 15 years was a gift.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to moving, because I don't want to chance that.
Right.
So burst into tears.
So moving day is stressful for
absolutely.
everyone. And the movers are there and they have the doors propped open. They may
Yes.
have to take doors off. I know you experience doors
Yeah.
coming right down to get furniture out.
Big bulky couch.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Your dog is going to be overwhelmed. There's new people in the house.
Yeah.
There's new smells. There's doors wide open. Furniture, huge things are being moved all around. It's best for your dog to be safe in a crate.
Yes.
There's too many opportunities for them to slip out the door, for them to interfere with the movers, for them to get stepped on or hit by something. I know you had to spend that day in your crate, didn't you? I know it was terrible. So, yeah, definitely get your dog used to spending time in the crate if you haven't been doing that before your
Absolutely.
move.
You know what? Let's talk about that for a second, because I think this is such a crucial thing to do with every single dog. And luckily, our dogs are acclimated to the crate nonstop because they have to be crated while we're working. So
Yes.
part of their day-to-day life is spending time in the crate. My dogs travel in the crate in the car.
Yep.
So they are very used to being crated. Any time that I think I need a crate, I can use a crate. I can actually, between my moves, I moved out of my house on the Thursday and I didn't move into my new house until the Tuesday. So I spent that weekend staying at my sister's house, and it was so easy to do, even though my sister has cats. Ned's not used to living with cats, but I set up a crate for him in the bedroom that I was staying in. And when he came out, I was very conscious to manage him and make sure that he wasn't allowed to chase the cats. But this allowed me to live a sort of normal life over that weekend where I could go out and do things if I needed to without Ned, because he was safely crated at my sister's house and he could be with me. I didn't have to worry about what am I going to do with my dog, because, I'm going to someone else's house and he's not used to cats and I can't leave him unsupervised with cats because we don't know what's going to happen. Right.
Yes.
He doesn't understand how to live with cats. So, I mean, having a crate as part of your life and part of your existence is so nice. Even if you don't ever have the need to really use it, I would strongly encourage you to have your dog spend a couple of hours a week in the crate so that they don't lose their acclimation to the crate.
Yep.
And if you have one of those situations, or if you need to board them, or if you need to leave them at the vet overnight for some sort of a medical thing, they're not stressed in the crate.
They're used to being
adapted
confined
to it. Absolutely. And they can go in there and they can chill out and relax and have a safe space.
Right.
And for all of the stress that Ned was feeling in that moment after the movers left and the house was empty, there was no stress when he was in the crate and the movers were there. And he was crated in the living room, so they were walking by him constantly and carrying all his stuff out. And he was just laying there chill as anything because he knows his crate is a safe space.
Right. Yes.
He's used to being in there. He's comfortable in there and he knows that this is his little den and he's happy and well adjusted in there. So I think it is worth talking about having to keep your dogs accustomed to the crate for their lives, even if it's something that is not a used thing in your day-to-day life.
Definitely.
I think that's so important. One other thing that I was really cautious of leading up to the move was how I stacked my boxes. And this is sort of an obscure
I never thought
thing.
of that. Yeah.
It's a little bit of an obscure thing, but I
Right.
noticed that as I was piling boxes, and I had these great sort of Rubbermaid crates I was
Right.
using as well, I noticed that as I was piling them, Ned was showing interest in stuff as these piles changed. And of course, that led me to think, oh, I don't want him jumping up on that thing.
Right.
So I just made sure that the really heavy stuff was on the bottom to wait. And if there was anything that was going to be light enough that could be knocked over, it started a new pile and it was sort of off in a different section.
Good idea. Yes.
I just had this vision
Right.
in my head of like him jumping up and then things falling on
yes.
him. And it scared me enough to come up with that plan. So that was something that I thought would be an interesting tip. The movers as well, as they're coming in and out of the house, dogs who are super friendly and chill, and those dogs might wrap themselves around the movers' feet and cause tripping or disaster. Something might fall on them.
Right. Yes.
Like there was a couple of my movers were fabulous, but there was a couple of little things damaged in the move, which is understandable.
Right.
There's a lot of heavy things being carried and moved around, and you don't want an accident where something gets dropped on the dog because they are running around underneath the movers or potentially slipping out of the house.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, definitely. Yep. There's enough to worry about moving day.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gave me an awesome tip earlier today that I added to the list here. Do you remember what it was?
It was having everything available for your dog
Yeah.
packed in an accessible spot. So when you arrive at your new house, you're not going, where did I pack the dog bowls?
Yeah.
I find one of the things for having a dog to adjust to the new house is having their things there right away for them.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
my dog, I still had Atari for most of my moves. So Atari and Honda, we'd arrive at the new house, and one of the first things I'm getting out is their things. And they're like, oh, here's our things. This is our home base now.
Yeah.
Our things are here. So it's funny how they recognize their own things. So,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I have their dog bowls, their food, their toys, their beds, everything that they recognize, their leashes, a pickup bag so I
Yeah.
can clean up after them right away is right there. So they go, okay, this, I stick near this stuff. This is my stuff.
Absolutely. The familiarity is really comforting for the dogs. And it's sort of similar to the crate, right? Like I
Right.
can take my fabric crate, my soft-sided crate. I say soft-sided crate just because it's easier to carry, but it could be any crate. I can take my crate anywhere and give my dog that comfort and security that they feel from familiarity. So
Right.
I think that would be similar with the things that you've just talked about.
Right.
And I actually did that without consciously knowing it. I had packed my grooming kit. I hadn't packed like the food and whatnot because I was still feeding him, and I knew that I
Right.
would need to take that with me to my sister's. But I had a box in the kitchen that was accumulating stuff, and I had put his grooming kit in it. And then once that box was full, as I was closing it up, I thought, I might need his grooming kit this weekend.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
maybe he'll get some burrs. I might need to brush
Right.
him out. So I took the grooming kit out and I put it with his food and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think about that consciously, but it was a smart thing to do because I did end up needing my
Right.
grooming kit. And then of course I didn't get my boxes unpacked at my new place until probably a week and a half in. So I would have been searching high and low for that grooming kit. Cause of course, you're supposed to label boxes, but
I know,
who
isn't it
has
funny?
time?
And you think, oh, I'm going to remember what's in there. And you don't remember what's in there.
It's so funny
Yeah.
because you're like, if there was a different colored crate,
Right.
like one of the Rubbermaid
Yeah.
crates that was like, I had one that was green with a red top, for example. So that one I was like, oh, well, I know what's going to be in that one.
Christmas decorations.
You would think.
Yes.
You would think. But situationally, as soon as all those boxes changed and moved from their little spots, like they
Right.
were accumulating in each room they were
Yeah.
being packed from, as soon as they moved from those spots, it was like cloud of confusion.
Right.
Where the heck is everything? And I
Yes.
even spent some time at the new place running out to the garage because now I have a garage that I had the movers put all the boxes in the garage and just move the furniture into the house because I
Right.
wanted to just slowly bring in a box at a time, go through it, put everything
Okay,
away,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then get rid of the box and
Yeah.
feel like just watch the pile dwindle.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I was needing things and I was like, oh, I don't know what box that's in, I found myself pulling off lids and
Right.
rifling through
Yeah.
and thinking, oh yeah, this is the box, and then going through the whole box and being like, no, it's not the box.
Right.
Why is life tricking me so
Right.
much? I don't understand. Where's my toaster? Like, whatever the thing was that I
Right,
needed.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very confusing time. So I love this idea of not having to search
Right.
high and low for my
the
dog's
dog's things.
things.
Yes.
I just know where those things are because I either brought them with me or
Mm-hmm.
that's the one box that I did label.
Right. Dog stuff. Yes. Things that I will need right away.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then when you get to the new place, how do you sort of introduce them to those things and show them where everything is?
Well, I right away I'm going to put down their water bowl. So I'm going to choose a spot in the house that I think, it might have to get changed in a week once I get my new patterns. But, I want them to see that, okay, this is where your water is. You're going to be fed here. I'll set up their bed. I set up Honda's bed in the exact same way it was set up in the old house. So Honda likes to sleep kind of in like a den-like area. So I have my nightstand. Honda's little, so he needs a little bed. So I put his bed under my nightstand. So it's kind of like
Okay.
a little cubicle he sleeps in. I call it his cabin. And
Honda's spot.
so I set that up right beside my bed. And so he's walking around going, okay, I recognize I'm in a new place, but there's a lot of familiarities
Yeah.
right here. I also, the first time they go out to the bathroom, I'm going to take them out on leash
I love
because
that.
I
Okay.
don't know what's out in that yard.
Yeah.
The one property that I moved to in Nova Scotia, I had no idea, but the property was covered in hogweed. And
Okay.
giant hogweed is a very toxic plant. And
Yikes.
if I had just let them out, it was a big 7-acre property. And if I just let him out willy-nilly and they ran around, they could have encountered that hogweed,
Yeah.
which became a very big problem on the property.
Oh,
So
geez.
we went out on leash and we just checked for, is there anything sharp on the ground? Did the people before throw a beer bottle that broke,
Yeah.
on the ground while they were moving and didn't clean it up? Did they leave garbage on the property? Is there anything sharp? Is there an animal carcass on the property if you're out in the country? So I'm going to be very cautious, or make sure if it's fenced that it truly is fenced.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have little dogs, so that's really important for people with little dogs that can
Right.
squeeze under small spaces.
Right, yes. So I will, if the property's overgrown, I'm going to push through the undergrowth to make sure that, there is a fence there. Or, the fence ends there. I didn't
Yeah.
realize the fence ended there. So I'm really investigating that property.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, actually, because on my property, there is a small partially fenced area. I'm not sure why it's partially fenced, but either way, that's what it is. And I've got things in the works now to finish off the fence and create a secure area, because I'm not the type of person that would ever just open the door and let my dogs roam the property. Country dog or not, it's not happening. They're always supervised. They're always with me. I just don't want to take the chance that
Right.
something happens. Plus, I have intact dogs. If there's a female in season anywhere in the vicinity, they're going to be gone after that to
Right.
fulfill their natural desires. So I want to make sure that I have a nice, secure spot. But at any rate, as we were sort of pushing through the overgrowth in the area that this fence is in, there's a big hole right in the corner
Right, yeah.
of the fence that I could not see at all until we went right in there. So if it had been a fully fenced area and I assumed it was safe, I would have been really surprised to suddenly maybe not have a dog.
Right. Yes.
So,
yes.
yeah, that's
Right,
excellent.
yes. And going along with that, along with the yard, I'm also investigating the house
Yeah.
too. The same property that I moved to had it was over 100-year-old house, and it was monstrous. And I was very surprised to walk in and find there was mouse bait boxes and rat
Yes.
bait boxes in the house.
Yep.
Which of course is like, is there loose rat poison in this house? So right
Yeah.
away I was on the phone to my realtor, and the realtor was calling the previous owners to say, what's up with this?
Yeah.
There's dogs.
I actually, we did an episode on vacations,
Right,
and
yes.
how to set the dog up, how to get them used to potentially going for boarding, and how to get them used to potentially coming with you on vacation. So we talked about all angles, and I mentioned that every single cottage we've ever rented, I always ask the people if
Right.
there's any mouse bait stations or mouse poison anywhere that I should be aware of.
Yep.
And then I also do a very thorough check on my own, because a lot of the times the people don't necessarily know. So
Right.
some of the times when it's an Airbnb, for example, they've not been to that property in years. They just own it, and they have cleaning services or maintenance
Right.
services come in and take care of things. So the maintenance services are going to take care of things like the mouse poison
Right.
bait stations and whatnot. And it might not be something that the owner is even aware of.
Right.
So I still do a very
Yes.
thorough
And
check.
in
of
motels
places.
too, I always check under the
Good
bed
idea.
because we encountered that once. There was mouse poison under a bed
Oh my
in a hotel.
goodness.
It wasn't, it
You
wasn't a
never
chain
know what
hotel.
you
It was
might find.
yeah, it was under. So I always look under the bed.
Good call.
I remember one time, back, I was more adventurous in my 20s, and we stayed in this really dilapidated old hotel, and it was shag carpet. And I remember letting my 3 dogs into the room, and they immediately started eating something in the shag
Ooh.
carpet. And I remember panicking, and
dear.
I think it was just a dirty room, but it was like, ugh, like everyone in their crates and wait in your crates, and no one's coming out. And
Yeah.
I don't even want to walk on the shag carpet. I think I did the biggest leap I could from the bed to the bathroom, then to the bed, then to the outside.
Oh my gosh, I can just envision you leaping, frog leaping,
Right,
Swanny
yes.
around this
I don't wanna-
dilapidated hotel room, the Bates
Right.
Motel.
yes, with shag, like deep shag carpet. I
my
wish I
goodness.
probably have pictures somewhere. Wouldn't be in a phone because this is pre-phone days.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard to find those pictures.
I know, yes,
I actually
yeah.
went through a bunch of those pictures when
Yeah.
I was getting ready to
Right.
move, and I ended up, of course, getting sucked into all these pictures
right,
and looking
yeah.
through all these pictures. But it's fun to go down memory lane.
Yes.
I'm sure that you'll find those pictures.
I will.
So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do a very thorough check of the house, and then I make sure that I supervise my dogs very heavily for the first little while until I've become really well acquainted with the house and or the cottage property. I don't have nearly as much experience with new house, but I did make sure that I was very well acquainted with this one before I let Ned sort of wander on his own. I kept him with me, and anytime he'd sort of try to wander off on his own, he's not really that adventurous away from me. He's happy to adventure when he's with me. But we have a pretty tight relationship, and he really wants to be with me everywhere. So it's rare for him to wander off and want to do his own thing anyways. But when he would start in those cases, I would watch him very closely to see where he was going. Oh, he's just going to get a drink. No big deal. But if he was wandering off somewhere else to maybe investigate something, I'd either call him back or I'd get up and just watch him just to make sure that, you know, if he's going into some corner that I've not really looked behind that curtain yet, there's nothing dangerous there that's going to. And it's sort of, I think those things sort of build bond anyways, because you're both sort of exploring together. So if he went to sniff in the corner, I would just walk over and go, what'd you find, buddy? And move the curtain and have a look. And then, okay, no big deal. So, you know, it's not that I'm panicking and making him panic or trying to tell him he's wrong for looking in the corner. I'm just making sure it's going to be a safe corner. He does have the right to explore his house, of course. When you finally leave your dog alone after moving into a new place, how does that work?
I crate them the first time, and it's usually for short times. So the first couple days I'm unpacking, and I want to get the dog accustomed to being there. I probably
will. First couple days, that's it, eh?
Oh, no, actually, I unpack forever. Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Although now I am super streamlined now. I've really downsized.
You must have it down to an art.
It's my son's stuff that,
I bet.
Yes, I'm toting around my 21-year-old son things, but he's in university, so, so I am toting it around.
This doesn't work, though. I thought you were just turned 30 a couple of years ago.
I know,
and you have a 21-year-old
son. Yes. And, well, he just turned 21.
There's a doings afoot.
But so it's like, oh, gee, I need to run over to, the store to get something. So I'm going to crate my dog the first few times I leave them. And I'm going to work up to leaving them for long periods of time, too, because I want them to feel comfortable in the house and not like, things have been changed and abandoned.
Yes, absolutely. And that panic about abandonment, like it's there, even with the most secure dogs.
Right.
It really surprised me that Ned was so glued to me for that that time period where once the house was empty, he was like, this is just weird. I just don't know what to do with this. And I'm not letting you out of my sight, like extreme. And I thought, oh, this is stressful on him.
Yes. And I also make sure I have tags on them with my current phone number, possibly my current address. And you mentioned this morning about updating your address with the company your pet's microchipped with.
Absolutely. This is a big deal. People will often get their puppies and they're already microchipped by the breeder. Make sure you call the microchip company and update your information with the microchip company so that they have your phone number and your address on file, not the breeder's. And then anytime you move, you need to update that information with the microchip company, because if your dog is found and scanned and they can't get a hold of you, that's a disastrous situation.
Right.
So I actually, when I changed my phone number, I made sure that I like embroidered collars for my dogs, so they don't have tags on. So I have their phone numbers actually embroidered into their collars. So when I moved and changed my phone number the first time, I made sure that I replaced those collars. I still have the same phone number now because it's my cell phone, so it just carries with me. But I need to make sure that I call the microchip company for Ned, and I'm going to do that as soon as we're done the podcast. Actually, I'm going to get on that. I'm going to contact them and update my address information in case they need that on file. It's not as urgent as it could be because they have my current phone number, but just to make sure I do my due diligence, that is a really important thing.
One thing I did too when I moved to the Merritt, like I moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia, then I moved to New Brunswick, then back to Ontario. I made sure I knew where the emergency vet clinics were in case of an emergency.
I love that.
And being quite rural, like it was a long drive to get to an emergency clinic. So I made sure too that I was aware on how to get there too. I had the address in my phone. So if there was an emergency, I could just tap maps. There it is. Okay. we're heading out there quickly.
Perfect. And I think this is a good opportunity to talk about, you've had experience with like a telehealth vet, correct?
Right. Yes.
So that's an option as well. If you're very rural now, if you don't have an emergency clinic within a 2 or 3 hour drive of you, maybe you have to drive 2 or 3 hours to get to an emergency clinic, have the phone number of a telehealth emergency vet on hand so that you can, if you need to, you can call for a quick opinion first or call for quick advice. Is there anything that I can do before I take this 2 hour drive? Because if it's an emergent situation, then certainly if there's something you can do right away to help the chances of survival, whatever the emergency may be, that is something that you'll want to know right off the bat. Right. So figure out where the emergency vet clinics are in the area. I'm happy to report that I do know that.
Right. Yeah.
In my new area, are you?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I have lots at my fingertips right now. Being in Hamilton. Yes.
Yeah. There is lots there. They're a great location for emergency vet. And if you need to switch vets, make sure that you have set up with the new vet.
Right.
Some vets won't be taking new patients.
Yes.
Sometimes vet clinics are really busy. So you might have to search around a little bit.
Yeah.
So make sure that's part of your planning process.
And you can get all your dog's information from the previous vet emailed over to your new vet.
Yes.
That's what I've done too. I have this email that follows me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Right.
For 5 different places, 3 different provinces. Right. Oh my goodness. So when you are introducing that freedom in the new house, once you get past the point where, the first week has passed, you've used the crate for that first week, what might you do to help the dog understand that this is their new spot to be? And as you leave, and leave them unattended in the house, how does that procedure look for you?
Well, the first times they're completely loose in the house, I'm going to just be gone for short times.
Right.
I'm not going to go out and say, okay, 8 hours off to work, have a good time in the new house, because we just don't know what they're going to get into in the new house. They might say, hey, rules are different. Or maybe they can access a window in the new house and bark. Yeah. So I'm going to be aware, or maybe I don't want them in the basement in the new house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure doors are closed. I might close doors, to different rooms. Because dogs, when they're a little bit stressed too, can do things we don't expect.
Absolutely.
I remember one of my dogs, when we moved, this was quite a while ago, got into the bathroom garbage.
Oh, dear.
And he had never bothered with the bathroom garbage. And we moved to a new place. And I came back one day, and he had eaten all the Q-tips out of the bathroom garbage.
Oh, my goodness.
He had just eaten the cotton off them and left the sticks.
That's probably good.
But I thought, well, that's not something he does. So, I passed it as a one-off, but wouldn't you know it, he started doing it as a habit. So we had to change some things up, and but it was an older dog, and I think he had gone in there out of a bit of stress, not knowing what to do in this new house, and developed a new habit.
Yeah. It's funny that you should say that. So I have a funny story that I'm going to interject with here. And I've actually already told you this story, but I'm going to tell our podcast listeners this story this time. So my new house has one of those just step-in showers. It's like one of the big single unit showers versus a tub in a shower unit. So after a particularly hard day working on the property and limbing a bunch of trees, and I was sweaty and dirty and gross, I had pine cones in my hair and all sorts of stuff. So I really had earned my shower, and I was having a lovely hot shower, and I had my eyes closed, and I was washing my hair under the water, and I heard a little thud, but I didn't think anything of it because I was actually expecting Kip home any minute. And, I thought, oh, that must be Kip coming home. So I kept washing my hair with my eyes closed, and then I felt something brush against my leg in the shower, and I looked down, and Ned was in the shower with me. Because he has never had the opportunity to not have a barrier in the shower tub. He just didn't realize what this was. And he was like, oh, he loves water.
Right.
Oh, water. And then he came and he's licking all the water out of the tub. And I looked down and opened my eyes, and there's this fuzzy red toller in the shower with me. Yeah. And of course, he got ousted very quickly from the shower. And now I shower with my eyes open now to make sure that he's not coming in. But I think we've worked that out. Now he understands that, even though you can walk right into situation, you're probably not going to.
That's so funny.
That's funny. Yeah, it was a funny scenario when I thought, well, there's something I never thought would occur. But things are different.
Right.
So when rules that had been previously established or not, I never had the need to say to him, no, you can't come in the shower in my old place.
Right.
Because there was a natural barrier of the tub there.
Right.
But now there's no barrier. And he
Right.
just thought, okay, well, I haven't been told this that I'm not allowed. So in I come.
Well, even he did something funny when we moved into the house in Nova Scotia. It was very old, and I hate to say it, but the people hadn't left it clean, and it was
Okay.
just old and dirty.
Yeah.
And there was this weird, dirty old closet. I don't know what it was used for. I think maybe like an old pantry in the kitchen.
Okay.
Well, lo and behold, I walked past it one day, and there was some Honda logs in the bottom of the closet. I think.
Well, there you go.
I think he thought maybe this is a dog washroom. And Honda's very well housebroken.
Looks like a dog run.
But for some reason, Honda, I don't know whether another dog in the past had used it as a washroom or what it was, but for some reason, Honda thought that was, I think this might be a bathroom in here.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to look twice. It's like, is that Honda? So even
funny.
your dog's housebreaking might change too. So of course I didn't scold him. I hadn't caught him in the act or anything. I just cleaned it up and cleaned it well. And then it's like, okay, you know what? I'm watching you, Honda. I got my eyes on you.
Yeah.
And when I saw him head over there, it's like, hey, come on, we go outside in this house. Just because we're in a new province doesn't mean the rules have changed.
Doesn't mean you get to poop in the house.
Right?
Oh
yeah.
my God.
So here, a dog that's has been housebroken for like 11
Yes.
years suddenly went to the bathroom in the house.
Yeah. You've probably heard us talk about this before. Dogs are tremendously situational. So when you change the situation, the rules don't necessarily accompany them to this new situation. They don't necessarily know how to self-govern in this new situation. So having eyes on them, spending a little bit of time doing your due diligence and supervising when the situation changes will ensure that you can catch any sort of missteps in the act and will ensure that you don't end up with a situation where it does become a long
habit. Yes. I'm glad I saw that.
Yeah,
it was a
absolutely.
really big house, so it could have easily gone unmissed, but that would have been
my
awful.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of a sudden there's this big pile.
Right. Yeah. And Honda's like, hey, I'm not going out there. There's hogweed. Hogweed.
Exactly. It's Jilly and Wendy out
Yes.
there. I don't want to go out. Oh my
Right.
goodness.
And another thing I do too is I familiarize myself with the neighborhood.
Yes. Oh, this is good.
Right, before I start going out for walks with my
Yeah.
dog. I don't like having a surprise loose dog just come flying out at me from a house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take note of my neighbors. I'm going to take note of other dogs in the neighborhood, make sure that they are, secured and that too, before I start to go out for walks with my dog.
I love that idea. And I think that's really, really smart. So just going back to leaving them loose, unsupervised in the house, just for a second, I made sure that the first time that I left Ned alone, it was when I went to get groceries, and town's 8 minutes away. So it's not that far of a drive. So he was maybe alone for a half an hour that first time that I went out, and Ned being a pretty trustworthy dog, I thought, you know what, he'll be fine with this. It was about a week in though. Like it was a good week before I even thought, I'm going to take this chance. The times before that, I just tucked him in his crate.
Right, yep.
So he would be safe. He would be confident.
Right.
I didn't want him in the house alone the first time and being like, oh my gosh, this is a new place.
Right. Has Shannon left for good? Like, what's happening here?
And feeling stressed about that. So it wasn't until much later that I started leaving him for short periods of time. And even after leaving him loose for that first short period of time, I then had a hair appointment, which is an hour drive for me now. So an hour drive there, an hour drive back, and 3 hours in the chair. I thought 5 hours? Nope, I'm putting him in his crate.
Right.
So he was in his crate for that time and safe and sound and snug as a bug and not stressed because his crate is familiar and he loves his crate.
Right.
And he doesn't feel stress in his crate. So
And a stressed dog will chew carpets, will chew walls.
yes.
And if that's going to happen, they can do a lot less damage in, half an hour than they'll do in 5 hours.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And I don't want to. So dogs being tremendously situational as well means that their first impressions are going to stick with them.
Right.
What they learn first, they learn best. And I don't want to set him up to feel stress when he's alone in that house. So then the first time I leave him alone, he's alone for a long period of time.
Right.
He feels stressed the whole time. And then the next time I leave him alone, he feels that again and again and again. What they rehearse is what becomes predictable pattern for them. So I don't want him to feel stress when I'm absent. I want him to be just chill and on his back on the couch with his legs in the air when I'm out of the house. My dogs are allowed on the couch as long as they're towing the line and being good dogs. So I'm happy to come home to a dog who's like, huh, what? What do you oh, mom's home. Okay, let's go say hello. Instead of a dog who's been drooling and panting and pacing and, you know, just being stressed the whole time and building on that stress every single time I go out. And then pretty soon I have a pretty big separation anxiety problem.
Right.
So ease them into it. That's such a nice, it's such a nice way to help them acclimate to a new environment. Are there other things that you would recommend? Other things you would think about?
I review all my barriers, and I know you were doing that this morning. You were
I
saying
love
with your
that.
new porch. So
I had a great incident this morning.
Yes.
That could have been an incident. That wasn't an incident. So Kip leaves before me in the morning. I leave pretty early. I leave about 6:15, but he leaves even earlier than that. So it's garbage day on Friday in my new place. So I was getting the garbage ready and I exited my front door. I have a lovely, lovely porch that is quite a big deck, and it has several stairs down from the main part of the deck. And right now I have an X-Pen barricading that the top of the stairs so that we can hang out on the deck. And, you know, we spend a lot of time outside. And when we're relaxing in the evenings, we tend to sit on the deck and enjoy our time outside versus being inside. So I've got that that X-Pen in place just to make sure I don't have to keep worrying about Ned. And I've been working with him on we did talk about barriers. Was that in the Halloween episode? Yeah, it was in the last episode.
Yes, we did talk about that. Yes.
We sometimes batch record and get confused about when we said what. So we've recorded 2 episodes today. And the earlier episode, we were talking about barrier training. So I'll just quickly jump in on that. Again, I teach all my dogs, you do not cross this barrier, whatever the threshold is, front door, back door, gated area, etc., unless you've been given permission.
Yes.
So it's a fail safe for me. You know, I want to make sure that if I accidentally leave a door open, my dog doesn't just wander out. They know that there's a rule in place that you don't cross this line.
Right.
And of course, that takes training going into things. So I've been working with Ned on the top of the stairs on the deck that you do not exit the top of the stairs until I'm with you and I've given you permission.
Right.
So Kip left this morning and he tends to be just okay, see you later, and he closes the door and off he goes. So of course he opened the X-Pen and walked out and didn't close it again. So I'm preoccupied with the garbage. I'm getting my recycle bins together. They're on the porch as well. I'm not paying attention to the dog at all in this moment because I'm not really thinking about the fact that the X-Pen's not there. And then I realized I forgot something inside. So I went back inside and I got it and I came back out again. And that was when I looked up and I see Ned standing at the top of the stairs at the completely open spot in the X-Pen. And I
good
thought,
boy.
oh my gosh, these are the moments that pay off. And I said to him, this is exactly what I said to him, buddy, I'm so glad you're better trained than Kip. Just kidding, Kip, if you're listening. But
no, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
So, I mean, those are the moments, right?
Yes.
I was completely innocent in what I was doing, but it would have been 100% my fault if I hadn't been paying attention to my dog. And, you know, it's pitch black right now in Ontario at 6:15 in the morning. So Ned could have been completely gone before I even noticed. And then what am I doing in the total dark at 6:15 a.m. yelling my dog's name?
Right, and if he had
welcome
caught
to
a
the
rabbit
neighborhood, Shannon. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. There's a ton of stray cats on the property that I've seen so far. There's a ton of rabbits. I saw something the other day that he was like, he had his nose in the bushes over, and I think it was trying to smack him in the nose, and I told him leave it and called him off, and he did, but I wasn't sure what it was.
Maybe your neighbor.
I have met my neighbors, and I don't think they're that little, but I don't even know what it was. So I mean, like, I want to make sure that I'm there supervising, and he doesn't get himself into mischief. And, you know, having that in place, like that was the moment that we have all these moments. We have students come to us all the time and say, "Oh my gosh, he got out of the car and he was running towards the road, or the leash came off, or something happened and they were running towards the road, and I called come and he came. He came, it worked." And it's like, these are the moments that all the work pays off. Like, it is such a magical feeling I can't even express. The opposite, of course, being the feeling of total powerlessness if you don't have those skills in place. So big relief for me this morning.
Right.
So the point of that talking piece was to talk about being critical about the things that you'll need to train.
Right. Yes.
So I don't have a, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and just remembering, just because Ned didn't leave your porch in Brantford doesn't mean
exactly
he knows not to leave your porch there.
Yes.
It doesn't transfer. Everything doesn't always transfer.
Yeah. So right away when I got there, that was one of the first things I started training. Very first things, because I thought, I know that I'm going to be using this a lot.
Right.
And I don't want him just jumping off the porch whenever he wants to and going and doing his own thing, which of course he's going to do. It's 12 acres of wonderment for him.
Yes.
Like he just wants to wander and sniff and
you know,
maybe find a nice girl and settle down out there somewhere. No, not gonna happen.
Or at least go for a swim in the pond.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So I think critically about the things that you will need to train. So in your new spot, is there something specific that you have worked on with Honda, or is he pretty much good to go?
Well, my new place has a nice big porch. Now it's street parking.
Okay.
So I don't have a driveway. So I used to always leave them on the porch, and they knew to wait on the porch. I'd go get the car ready, make sure everything's clear. Okay, you guys can run to the car. We can't do that anymore because it's street parking.
Gotcha.
So he's pretty much ready to go. We've, worked on if the door's open, of course, you can't leave unless I give you permission. Same with the backyard gate.
Okay.
You can't leave unless you have permission. So I have reviewed all the barriers. He's doing well in the new house. He's he knows where the bathroom is.
Good.
He knows where everything is. He knows the routines.
Excellent.
So I think everything's going well at the new place.
Perfect.
He's adjusted very quickly.
Perfect. A little prior planning goes a long way to helping these things ease in gently. And hopefully your next move is as quick and simple as it seems like ours was.
Right.
But there was a lot of work in it.
It's a lot. Moving is a lot of work. Yes.
It's worthwhile.
Also check the municipality in case your dog needs a license. Yes.
That one's excellent.
Right.
That's an excellent one. I didn't even think of that. So set yourself up with that. They'll probably know about licensing in your area, or you can call your township and ask them what is necessary for your dog, if anything.
Right. Yes.
Any other words of advice?
Just be good about your neighbors too. Your new neighbors might not be 100% thrilled about dogs moving in. And set limits right away. We had a lovely neighbor at one house a long time ago, but he always bought dog biscuits for the dogs.
Oh.
And he was constantly giving them dog biscuits, and they would run to the fence, and they started getting pushy too. It's kind of like, give me my dog biscuit, give me my dog biscuit. So I had to very politely say, you know what, can please limit the dog biscuits that you give them, and ask them to sit first. It was like only a 3-foot fence, so we could reach over and give them a biscuit. So I had to let him know right off the bat, sort of like, I appreciate that you love my dogs, but they can't eat this many dog biscuits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're getting a bit goofy now about going out there to get these biscuits. So I'm very conscious of my neighbors.
That's
and,
good advice.
I like to assure my neighbors that I look after my dogs. They're cared for. Please, if ever they're annoying you, ask me. Like, let me know.
Yes.
I want to have a good relationship with my neighbors.
Absolutely. That's just being good and being conscious that you are being a good neighbor. I love that. That's a great idea. Well, I hope that this episode helps you move with ease. And Honda, any parting words of advice? No, Honda is conked out, sleeping like the little Ewok he is.
Yeah, he's like, nap time.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. If you have any tips from your moves that you think would be helpful, please drop them in our comments section. You can go to our YouTube, McCann Dogs Podcast YouTube channel, and you can chat with us in the comments section there. We would love to hear from you. And on that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanny.
Happy training, everybody.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!